You guys enter the stars, and good things are happening. Good things are happening. We had a beautiful day yesterday. The sun was out, and let's just say good things are happening. Okay? People are awake. Now, before we get this show started, notice to YouTube that everything discussed in the show is a form of artistic expression, therefore protected content under your own guidelines, protected content that otherwise may be considered a violation. So I want to give a shout out to Norcore Clutch and Brake in West Haven. These guys are wide awake. Here's their business. And I got to talking to them. They're already fans of Brian at High Impact. One of the guys quoted one of the famous quotes that Brian quotes about our freedoms and giving them away. They asked me to shout them out, and I'm glad to do it because these guys gave me hope again in the human race. So here's how the story went with Norcore Clutch and Brake. I've been hearing this chirping sound in my clutch for the last 6 months, and apparently mechanics, they don't like to lube things anymore. They just want to replace stuff. So I was getting quotes for $2,000 for a full clutch replacement. I was like, that's just unreal. There's no way I'm going to do it. The clutch hasn't gone out yet. There's no way I'm going to spend $2,000 on a 2002 truck to replace a clutch, when all I really needed was just some lube inside my clutch fork. Those of you that know about cars, you understand how that works. Well, the guys at Norcore, I was calling around to get more quotes. They're actually a supply shop. They don't do mechanical repairs. But one of the guys there told me, he goes, just bring your truck in. He goes, I might be able to help you out. I'll put some heavy grease on your clutch fork. That should help with the chirping sound. And they didn't even charge me for it. Now that is where we should be with humanity. So we got to talking, and they asked me what I did, and of course I started talking about CV and all this, and they agreed. This is a play on our rights, blown way out of proportion. Anyways, I wanted to shout these guys out. Wonderful people. Let's make sure we're connected, and we'll go on with the rest of the show. I've got some crazy information to share with you guys today. Looks like we're all connected up. Thanks for everybody for showing up. So, a couple days ago, I got this post from one of my subscribers. Flowers in Springtime. Now, I don't know who this person is, but apparently they're in line with the Holy Spirit. Why would I say such a thing? Well, as you guys know that follow this channel, every single episode or every single show, we have some kind of supernatural synchronicity that applies directly to this channel. We'll be talking about something in the next day or two. It'll be talked about in the mainstream media. So this particular person said, I hope you see this, or someone can alert you to see this in the movie 2012 at the part where Jackson Curtis goes into the RV to talk to the theorist. About 20 minutes in, there's a CV on the wall with a smiley face inside of it. So I replied, the day after that, I will look. And of course, those of you that follow the channel know that I then did a show on that yesterday morning. Well, hours after our show about Woody Harrelson, which was in the scene, Woody Harrelson comes out and talks about the CV. Go figure, right? Here you can see it for yourself with your own eyes. 20 hours ago. That was after our show. And 2 days ago was the comment. And he's talking about the CV. And he's basically playing the role that he played in the film 2012. Now, I don't know what this is all about. You can call it what you want. There are different theories as to why this happens over and over again. I believe that it has to do with spiritual manifestation, the Holy Spirit confirmation that we're right on track to help people wake up. And when they see these synchronicities happening over and over again, hopefully they'll understand what the source is. It's not me. It's the Most High. People will begin to believe as we transition into these last days. The tribulation. So, what else? Well, I had another one of those dream sequence revelations last night. This is when it always hits me. I get this mental clarity. It's almost like my awake hours are being in a fog. But when I fall asleep, everything condenses down to its least common denominator and its simplest meaning. And I get like a vision of things to come. And I had like visions of an ark. And God's people, or those who believe, who don't want to be part of the system, going to a place that has ark in its name. And that this is where many of these people will be weathering the storm, so to speak. The last days will be like the days of Noah. And it all began to make sense to me what was going on. Now, sometimes you have to look at what the elite aren't doing instead of what they are doing. I don't know about you, but every time that I've gone to the doctor and complained about a cold or any kind of illness, what do they tell you to do? What's the first thing they tell you to do? That nobody's talking about right now in the midst of what we're going through. They always tell you, drink plenty of fluids. Weren't we hearing that from Fauci? Of course, Faust is from the 1920s film Faust. And in that film, Faust sells his soul to the devil, Mephisto. We decoded that film. In that film is an image of Molech the owl. And all the people living underground and walking into the fire. So, when you go to the doctor, they tell you to take vitamin C. Why isn't that being talked about? They tell you to get plenty of rest. Why isn't that being talked about? They tell you you need sunlight. Why isn't that talked about? They tell you you need exercise. Why isn't that talked about? They tell you you need to reduce your stress. Why isn't that being talked about? They tell you you might want to consider quitting drinking or smoking. Why isn't that being talked about? They tell you you might want to improve your diet. Why isn't that being talked about? None of this is being talked about because they want to flatten the curve of the solution that they are going to bring forward. The sole focus has been on the VC injurious injections. So what does this suggest about public health related to the CV? Well, at the least, it suggests incompetence. Useful and actionable information that they could be recommending while they have the ears of the world listening. We do not hear one little sound. You know, like my clutch, little bird telling you that it needs grease. Why won't they tell us all these things and remind people of how to stay healthy? Because this was never about public health. It's about pigeonholing us into a single solution. Mandatory, injurious injections. Now, we're going to talk about nachos. I'm not talking about chips, or maybe I am. What is nachos? Well, National Association for County, hold on, let's pull this up, and City Health Officials. Nachos. Here's their Wikipedia page. National Association of County and Health Officials. Nachos. Of course, you know nachos are chips. But what you didn't know is that Nacho is a CDC front group that lobbies for mandatory injurious injunctions. They operate on CDC grants. What's so bad about Nacho? Well, here's what's so bad, and I can't blow this up, but I'll put a link in the pinned comment. They have repeatedly urged legislators to do away with exemptions for personal beliefs, religious, conscientious, or philosophical beliefs. It says it right here. Funded with grants from the CDC. Now, I told you in previous broadcasts that Mr. T's former FDA appointment was threatening the same thing to states, saying he was going to force it. Nobody believed me. Still backed their man, Mr. T. And when that man stepped down, I think it was Gottlieb was his name, Trump said he did a very fine job. Yeah, I'm sure he did. That's what he tweeted out. So, why do they want every single person on these injurious injunctions if the people that accept them are quote-unquote protected? Why are they trying to force this on everybody? That's the question. That is the $1,000,000 question. Now, what else does Nacho do? Well, they also promote adult VCs. This article explains it all. And electronic registries. Eventually, will they be talking about a nacho chip? I don't know. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. So far, I haven't found anything about Nacho coming up with a chip. But in doing my search, I did find a weird connection. Every time, or many times that Nacho, the organization, was mentioned, they had some kind of article, not in the same article, but very close to, of pet chips for dogs and cats. So that's kind of weird. I don't know if the two are working together. Anyway, I see Paul Panda with the wrench. Thanks for coming in, Paul, and maintaining the order in here. Let's go in the chat for a little bit. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about Q in the Bible, in the book of Revelation specifically. Let's see, is this the show here? Tomorrow. I think this is it. This is going to be tomorrow's show. You're not going to want to miss this, because the number 17, which alphanumerically is the number Q, appears over and over and over again in the book of Revelation. Here it is in Revelation 12. The dragon, 7 heads, 7 crowns, and 10 horns. 7 crowns and 10 horns is 17. Revelation 13, again, 10 crowns and 10 horns. Revelation 12 talking about the dragon. Revelation 13 talking about the beast. 7 heads, 10 crowns, 17. Then Revelation 17, another Q, 7 heads and 10. This is the woman riding the beast. Everything about 17 and Q is the beast. And we've been deceived. Many channels are trying to slowly back the car out of the garage after they've misled everyone into a sleepy state to keep following and trusting the plan. And I would hope that you all have the critical thinking skills to step outside the cult of personality and not reward those channels by continuing to follow them. Make a statement. The reason why we're in the position we're in right now is because of those channels. Because they divided the community, and they put a lot of people to sleep. And now we're dealing with the consequences. You can basically say they're the ones who have us where we're at right now, stuck in our homes. Because Mr. T never would have been able to pull this off had the truth community been on it with this and not trusted the plan. So, you can do what you want to with it, but you guys know my position on this from the very beginning. I tried to tell you guys step out of the right-left paradigm and wake up. And I got so much hate, attacks, channels attacked me, you name it. But I lost subscribers, but I'm not here for subscribers. I'm here to do the right thing. And here we are. And now you guys know what's happening. And I would hope that you would step outside of your ego and do an about face and step away. They don't get to say I'm sorry in this instance because the damage is already done. We're at where we're at because of them. Because not enough people stood up and said something. I tried to tell you, it's just weird. How can someone say that someone never makes a mistake and that they're always playing 5D chess and there's always a reason for what they do? Nobody's that perfect except for a God or God himself. So here we are. All the people with their small businesses who believed the plan are now losing those businesses. How can you still support that? The little patchwork check that you get that's already going to be basically have deflated. Your little check will be deflated. You're going to get a flat check that's already lost half of its value by the time it comes out, and you think that's going to save your business? Now, I do have some hope because I'm getting messages from Bank of America saying, oh, you can have a deferment on your loan, but that doesn't mean that payment's going to go away. You're probably still going to have to pay that back. So, now they're coming after small businesses that are trying to stay open in some capacity. This is crazy. How can you still trust this? I don't know. So, let's go into the chat here. Read some of your comments. A lot of you won't even be getting a check because you didn't file electronically. JCB. Exactly. They probably set it up that way on purpose. Why can't they mail people checks? Why is our corporations and businesses, large businesses, getting the majority of this stimulus package and not the people down here on the ground level? Why does Walmart, who gets the majority of the traffic, social distancing, why do they get to stay open, but then the small businesses that get little traffic already as it was have to close? Are you guys waking up now? Are you waking up? So, what else do we have here? Yes, Jen. Trust only God's plan. There's Ozaru with the wrench. Thanks, Ozaru. Thanks to the people who subscribed to the channel membership. I appreciate that. That's only something for people who are able to do it. And in the atmosphere of what's going on right now, in the financial uncertainty, don't give it even a second thought if you can't do that, okay? It's only for people they can. And there was some, confusion. The content on this channel does not change based on whether or not you're a channel member. Channel members are doing it out of the kindness of their heart and because they can. They're not even expecting to get anything extra out of it except supporting us and helping this work move forward. So that's what that's all about. The content is no different. So appreciate you guys. All right. So there's a lot of other information out there. Shout out to the channels that are having no fear and is going for it in their speech and language, and knowing that what they say could be the end of their channel and their voice. Some people are going all in on this, and that we need those people to do that. I'm kind of taking a more conservative approach. I want to be on here to be able to talk to you guys as long as possible, so I am careful what I say. The channel seems safe for now over here. Many of you have made a transition from the other channel, and that's great. We might not be around forever. We're going to do the best we can. Apparently there was another purge last night. A lot of other channels lost their financing, I guess you can call it, their ability to support themselves, which will definitely have an impact on their ability to bring you the truth. We all knew this was coming. I was like the first one that it happened to on my other channel, and I tried to warn my peers. Apparently a lot of people didn't listen. What happens when you see a channel and this happens to, the first thing you should probably do is go through and just scrub most of the offensive content that YouTube deems offensive and carry on in a different way. Most people have already seen the videos that are sitting on the server. More people aren't seeing those videos. So your best is to get rid of them, because otherwise YouTube's going to use that against you, which is what they did on my other channel. But we're still standing. We're still here, and I'm thankful for that. I think it's because of all of you. Where do you find me if you get shut down on YouTube? Well, many of you are signed up for the newsletter. I think about 1,100 of you. We'll keep in touch that way. There's also a Facebook group. We can keep in touch that way if you're on Facebook. I got a Twitter page. Keep in touch that way. In terms of videos, I have no idea. I've got like 4 or 5 channels on YouTube. The other 2 are really small. They're like 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers. One of them is a fishing channel. One's just a backup channel. So just subscribe to all you can, and we'll just keep starting new channels, I guess, until they start coming after IP addresses. You know, it's laughable that YouTube deemed that other channel we had as harmful to you. That just blows me away. We're like one of the most moderate true channels out there. We don't get crazy. We don't threaten people. We just share things. And that was the writing on the wall probably for the rest of the community. Because if they deem this channel harmful, then guess what? Much more aggressive channels, they're coming for you next. So hopefully you're listening and you can fix your channel so it doesn't get demonetized and taken down. All right, what else do we have here in the chat? Yes, it's because entertainment channels can post controversial content. And that's why at the beginning of this show, we're redefining this channel as artistic entertainment. So we fall under different guidelines according to YouTube. You can show controversial content under the guise of art, right? So that's what we're going to say. This is an artistic opinion channel. You guys know what I'm saying. So pin the links. All right, let's take a look here. Let's get this one here. Boom. Woody Harrelson. Here, I'll put this link in there. This is pretty much the only one. Control C. All right, so I'll put that link in the show notes, in the pinned comment for you guys. What else do we have here? Good morning, everybody. We're going to get through this. Like I said, yesterday was a bright and sunny day, and I saw some very promising things happening in public. I heard about some very promising things. So, there's hope. Okay? There's hope. Not to say we're not going to get more pushback, but Illuminati Destroyer Bear says, what are your thoughts on pre-trib rapture? Well, I've talked about that many times on this channel. Okay. A lot of people have a deep-seated fear of facing judgment and everything that's coming. And they don't want to be around for it. And there are verses in the Bible which you could construe as we're going to be delivered from all this before it happens. But then we have biblical precedent. You have the context of the rest of the Bible. People like the apostles, who were much more closer to the will of God in Christ than we were, even despite their imperfections and flaws. They were much closer because they walked with Jesus. They saw him. They knew his perfect will. Many conversations that weren't even in the Bible, they probably had with him to know exactly what they were supposed to be doing. And look, if I was an apostle or disciple, the first thing I'd be talking to Jesus about was, hey, what am I supposed to be doing? Please be very specific about what kind of man you want me to be. And I know I'm going to fail, but tell me how to get through the narrow gate. Because it's not just believing in him. You got to walk the walk. You got to try. And so you can imagine that they, in their teachings with Christ, he told them that the end was near, right? And something tells me they weren't sitting around waiting to be delivered from this. And in fact, they all died martyrs. Every single one of them. Now, my common sense tells me if some of the most holy people on the planet that walk with Jesus did not get deliverance, and then I look at my life and how imperfect I am, even though I try and I love God, I'm an imperfect human being. How can I expect and, demand that I'm going to be delivered by some rapture away from what's happening or what's going to happen? I can't. My conscience tells me that that's probably not going to happen. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you some hope. Because on the flip side of that, there is the book of Revelation that talks all about the plagues that are coming, and only the people that take the mark will suffer the plagues. So you're not going to have to suffer through that. But you got to make choices and decisions. The Bible tells you how God delivered people. Normally, it meant leaving from somewhere and going somewhere else, right? Noah, Lot, the Hebrews coming out of Egypt, the Exodus. This is why I tell you guys, don't be afraid to have an exodus, to change your life, to get out of big cities and go to where the ark might be. The last days ark. I know that's my plan and the people around me. So those are my feelings about the rapture, and the people that keep date setting a rapture are slowly chipping away at the faith of the people who believe in it, because they full-heartedly believe that God is going to deliver them from this, and they're all focused on that instead of what we're supposed to be doing. There are biblical precedents for suffering and dying, or having enough faith to expect that there may be harm and then no harm actually happening to you. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walked into a fire before they would bow down to a king. And here we are bowing down to kings, right? They walked into a fire. They were not burned. Daniel in the lion's pit. Was it Daniel that fell in the lion's pit? The lion did not harm him. You got to have some faith. Faith is what's going to get you through these last days, not keeping the hope that God's going to deliver you from. Yeah, you can pray for the end to come. That's part of the Lord's Prayer. That your will be done, your kingdom comes. That's okay to pray for that, for the end of all this suffering. But to pray to be delivered while other people have to suffer, the end result is the same, you guys. Death brings you into the new kingdom. You go to sleep and you wake up and you're there. Why? Because there's no time while you're sleeping. So what's the difference between that and some pain? All right. So those are my feelings on the rapture. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and they're going to try to make this into something that it's not. Or they're going to accuse me of being a false prophet by not giving people hope in a rapture. I'm just saying I'm prepared for either way. If a rapture comes, that's great. But if it doesn't, I'm prepared for that too. And you should be too. You should be too. Because the devil's going to use that to chip away at your faith. Every time a rapture date goes by, you're going to be like, wow, God forsaked us. He's not looking out for us. We're suffering. You guys, what we're going through now is nothing close. This is nothing. For those of you that already pulled back from the beast system, that already began to detach yourself from all of the hopes and dreams of this life that they dangle in front of us, for those of you that have already done that, what we're going through now is no big deal to you. Because you don't go to the supermarket much. You don't eat much. Because you don't have a bunch of material things that you're going to lose because you can't pay for them. This is no big deal for you. And I've been saying this since the very beginning of this channel. The simple life. Do everything you can to detach yourself from all the lies of the beast system. Home ownership. That's a lie. If you can't pay something off in a year, you don't want it. Why? Because as those 30 years go by, they're the puppets at the top. They're the puppet masters pulling the strings of the economy. When you need to sell your house, you probably won't be able to because it probably won't have enough equity. Basically, the bank is giving you a trap. They're giving you a giant mouse trap. And if you are not careful as you're trying to get your cheese, the trap will shut on you and you will lose that investment. All the hard work and worry invested in that investment. You're better off just dealing with it. That's what you should be doing. And finding a lower cost way of dealing with it. Dealing with this life. Don't invest in their lives. Like I told you guys on previous shows, how many times in my life have I blown through $20,000? I can recall one trip. I thought, oh, this is how I make people happy in my family. This is how I make my wife and children happy. I'm gonna do a $12,000 trip. We're gonna hit Disneyland, Legoland, and Universal Studios, and that's what we did. And I was like, hey, well, let's stay in this little strip motel. Save a little bit. Nope, can't stay there. We got to stay at the Hyatt. $275 a night. This was 20 years ago. Oh, let's get the Flex Pass. Let's get this. Let's get that. Just blew through $12,000 on a trip. Well, guess what? You can get 10 acres in a state. The Ark for that amount of money with a view. Independence. You're not carrying a mortgage. Independence. That's what this is about. Getting away from the B system. What are your taxes in a year? Oh, $50. $100 in an entire year. You now have a place to go. An ark of safety. So, people say, oh, I can't, that's a lot of money. Well, it is a lot of money now, given the current circumstances, but we can all agree that we've all gone through that amount of money, just burned it, doing ridiculous stuff. You know, I love my kids. I'd love my kids. But when I recall sacrifices that I've made to try to provide memories and make them happy, they don't remember that. They don't remember how we just burned through $8,000, $12,000, staying in hotels, swimming in pools, hitting all the cool places. And you know, it hurts a little bit, but then you learn your lesson. You learn that money The only way you should use money is to get your independence from money. Everything else is a lie. All the marketing telling you this is what you're supposed to be doing during your vacation, it's all a lie. And the people around you who you do it for don't even remember what you did. They don't sit around and talk about it all the time. But guess what? That was money you blew through that you could have gained some kind of independence in your life to set aside all the worries, all the things that we worry about, gone, with one simple decision that can help you escape from it. Now, there are ways to do it and there are ways not to do it. Okay? I almost made a mistake about 8 years ago. There's another YouTuber, and people were going down to another country. I'm not going to roast this guy. He probably didn't even realize it, was making choices and decisions, and was going to go down. It's not KJ. This is a different person. I don't want you guys to get confused here. Was telling me that, hey, the Chinese dragons are going to, everything is going to go to debtless society. They're going to give us a bunch of money and this and that. Your debt's going to be erased anyway. Just crank up your credit cards and get as much land as you can. You don't want to do that because they'll still be able to come get it. Okay? Now, if we weather the storm, I would hope that people are going to take my advice. I'm going to double down and try to follow through with what my plans are, so that I can share that journey with you, so you can know how to do it without getting roasted or losing everything, okay? But sadly, I don't think there's much more opportunity for this. The days of people making six figures in their jobs and blowing through money on their mortgages and on trips, and those days are gone, okay? Those days are gone. I just don't see that, America reaching a point of prosperity like that ever again. Okay? And most people just don't have what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have the self-control. If you're making six figures, you shouldn't be in a $2,500 a month mortgage. What you should be doing is maybe renting for $1,000 a month and saving half your income. And in a year, you could be independent if you needed to be one day and not a slave to a job and not be forced to work for the next 30 years to pay off a $2,500 a month mortgage. But how many people do we know that do that? Almost none, because we live in the now. We don't prepare. You know how long Noah built the ark? What was it? A year? He was preparing for an entire year, building the ark, living in it, building. How many of us have the self-control and discipline to do that? Very few. It isn't until you have nothing that you go, man, I wish I would have done this or that. Wish I had a 10-acre property with a little tiny house on it somewhere tucked away that I'm only paying $100 a year on. It's sitting there waiting for me in case it all hits the fan. You wish you had that now. I know I do. I regret it every single day that I didn't do this 10 years ago. I had $200,000 in equity in a house that I owned in 2000 in California. And I tried to go to my now ex-wife and I tried to tell her, we need to sell this house. We're never going to see this kind of money ever again. We need to sell this house and go rent somewhere so that we can have financial security for the future. And even back then, I was telling her we needed to buy a property in the country somewhere, paid in full. She thought it was some kind of a trick or a joke. Why would you want to sell our beautiful home that's worth $500,000? Why would you want to do that? I go, you don't get what I'm saying. I'm trying to talk some sense into you. This is why you got to surround yourself with people that get it. Because if you don't, they're going to drag you into a different kind of existence where you will succumb to the fear of the beast system by not being independent. And when you don't have a job, they're going to be like, why, you need to go work for the beast. Well, no, I'm going to be independent. You don't need to work for the beast. Now, if you're listening to the lie, the American lie, I call it, you're probably thinking this is all nonsense. Casey, you're running away. Casey, you're this, you're that. No, this is called independence. Casey, the American dream is working hard, making a bunch of money, and sticking with it. Putting it all on the line. No, that's how the enemy thinks. It's not even biblical to have a loan longer than 7 years. Did you know that? Why do we have 30-year loans? 7-3-3-7. That number's loaded. 30-year loan versus a 7-year loan. You think there's not something evil about that? Of course there is. So, appreciate everyone that showed up at this show. Thanks for the great questions. Hopefully this will give you guys something to think about. We'll be back on here tomorrow talking about the number 17, the book of Revelation. I've also got the word crown pulled up in the Bible and how many times that was mentioned. Because it's all about the crown, right? All right. You guys have a great day. Take care and be safe, everybody.